Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the Crafted and Carved podcast. It is episode 2. Okay, we are back. We did it. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I hope it always feels like this, where I'm literally like smiling from ear to ear, just so elated to be here and so excited to literally just be on an airway. Even though it's new and I know things are still, up and running, but it's fun and it feels right. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to get into the topic today, which I'll introduce later. But before I do that, I wanted to make sure that I told you guys or reminded you guys to make sure you're subscribing on whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether that's YouTube or what's the main one, Apple Podcast. Is that the name of it? That feels like such like a basic name, like Apple Podcast, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it's called. If you have an iPhone, I'm pretty sure it's called Apple Podcasts. But there's so many other platforms that we're also already on. Like, your girl has been putting in that work. So we should be on iHeart, Podbean. Shout out to Podbean, because that's our host. And then a slew of others. And if you can't find us, let me know, because we're going to fix that. So yes, please make sure you like, if you're on YouTube, and then subscribe, so you can stay tuned. These episodes should be coming out every Monday. However, may sprinkle a little, something in between during the week, little 5 minutes, something. I don't know what it would be. And we'll see how that works. But either way, the only way you'll know about it is if you subscribe. So that's how you stay in the know. Yes. So thank you guys for joining me back on episode 2. So let's go ahead and get into the topic. So today's topic is about your inner child, which is like, does anybody even know what that is? I don't know if we have like a real definition. I think some people just think that like it's the little girl from when I was 2 years old or 3 years old. And I think it's fine to kind of not know exactly what it is. I think this is one of those words or phrases that, although we use it a lot, and although it doesn't have like a precise definition, I think it's okay to give it your own identity, right? And the reason I say that is because I don't think that your inner child, this is just my opinion, right? But I don't think that your inner child is something that is like really like tangible, obviously. But then I don't also think that it's a particular age. I don't think that it's just one particular aspect of your childhood. And I also don't think that it's like this like broken, hurt, like, abandoned, traumatized aspect of you either. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And I'm really excited. What actually prompted me? I don't know if I would be able to link this, because I don't even know if I can find it. I didn't even attempt to try to find it before I started recording today. So if I find it, maybe I can link it in the description so you guys can check it out. But I think most of us know. If you don't know, you are missing out. We know the wonderful individual who is Tabitha Brown. She is an incredible African American. And I mean, obviously, race is not a defining, aspect of who she is, but it's wonderful to see her as a Black woman making the waves that she's making, doing all the wonderful things that she's doing in the media. I mean, it's hard to really put her in a category right now, because this lady is like everywhere. She's in entertainment, she's in acting, she's in food, she's in Target. She just like released like a cook line or something, vegan something. She's got hair care products. I mean, she's everywhere. So that's my little like 10-second plug on Tabitha Brown, because I actually really do love her. please, support all of her products, her YouTube, her just everything. She spreads so much light, love, and positivity. So go Tabitha. But yes, shameless plug for Tab. But I wanted to share with you guys, I guess, just my thoughts on a video that she released a few weeks ago. I mean, it's been a while. It's been maybe like December. I think the situation will help, like, with the time frame, and maybe help me actually locate the video, because it has been a second. It wasn't like, I don't think that it was anything that like went viral. But it did have to do with the death of Twitch, the dancer and DJ formerly on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And I think he won some like dance competition a long time ago, and he just has this like fun, lovable character. And him and his wife Allison would make little TikTok videos dancing. And anyway, we all should by now know, if we didn't know, who he is, because unfortunately he passed away. I want to say it was the end of 2022. Like, everything is such a blur. We're like in the last few weeks of January, and I can't remember the difference between earlier this year and the end of last year. So I apologize for not having these timelines accurate for y'all. Like, ooh, just bear with me. But yes, so unfortunately we lost Twitch to the battle of suicide. And I say battle because although I have never been close enough to an individual, thank the Lord, to understand or witness, that battle of suicide, I fully understand that it's a battle. It's a battle that starts in the mind. It's a battle that starts, and it's rarely ever in the heart. Most people love themselves. I mean, we're being honest, like, most of us are narcissists, like miniature narcissists, not like in the bad way. I'm overusing the term because we overuse the term. I know that we are not actually narcissists, but I mean, we love ourselves. I mean, I love me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look in the mirror, I be like, yes, girl, what? Where did you come from? Can we make another copy and paste? Okay, I'm ready for a mini me. Just kidding. I am not. But most of us in our hearts truly love who we are. And this is where we're going to rope all of this in, I promise, to this inner child topic. Because some of y'all are like, dang, girl, like, you stay getting real solemn and deep and depressing. I thought we would talk about the inner child. But just stay with me, I promise. I am going to rope all of this back together. But yeah, the point is that all of us truly deep down really do like think that we are like the bee's knees. We really feel good about just who we are before we step outside and open the door and allow the opinions of other people in. And so the battle of suicide is usually in the mind, because those outside words, thoughts, concepts, like social things that society brings to the forefront, those things start to seep in through all sorts of different sources. It's really heavy media right now because all of us are consuming social media and media at paces like never before. Like, back in the day, there was like literally a newspaper, right? And it took like ages for it to get to the house. And that was like the main form of media before the television. Okay. Like, I'm literally talking about before the television. And then there was the radio. And, like, we had this control in terms of access and what we were allowing in our lives. And now, like, all of these unfiltered voices and opinions are coming in at this rapid pace like never before. And so a lot of us may be familiar. I know I can be transparent in that in the past, I am at least familiar with that battle in the mind of just loving yourself so deeply, but feeling the pain and the anguish of what's literally happening on the outside. And then just too many voices clouding your mind. And so just going to that dark place. And as we're on the topic, it's definitely on my heart to make sure that I drop some information for a suicide hotline, which I definitely will, because this is definitely not a light topic. And it's not one that I want to just brush past, because it wasn't actually my desire to dive heavily into the topic, and I won't. But at the same time, I know that there are some of you who can also relate, and I understand that you don't know me, and so my words won't really land. But just hear my heart for 2 seconds. And know that I love you, and my prayers are always going to be with you in your struggles. And hopefully, if I can drop this information into the description, you are going through something, you're going through that battle in the mind, please, please, please reach out to one of these hotlines and talk to somebody, and hopefully that conversation will help lead you in a different direction. Okay. But yes, so this Tabitha Brown video, it was addressing the passing away of Twitch, and it really stuck out to me. One, because I wasn't necessarily battling like a suicidal thought at the time, but I was having a really rough week. Like, it was just one of those weeks where I just felt really low, and like, you know, the pressures of life were like really being emphasized, you know, that week. And so she had dropped this video, like, Twitch had just passed away, and she's like crying, you know, like, so to see Tabitha Brown cry, who literally is like always smiling, like big, you know, cheeks, like ear to ear smile, and she's literally crying and in tears. And her message, you know, like I said, I did not pull this up before I watched this. So I don't know word for word, but her message was just, to the people who are going through that difficult battle in their minds. And like, you hear the word difficult battle, right? And so you're probably like, oh, well, that's not me. Honey, just take a second, because we all have things, okay? We all have things, whether it's we're being too hard on ourselves about, you know, oh, like, we saved $2,000 this year instead of $5,000 or the $10,000. And, oh, you know, I wanted to go to the Bahamas this year, but I got to sell for Florida. Like, we all are way too hard on ourselves at times. And so whatever the battle is that's going in your mind, like, just level with me for a second, because this video, it spoke volumes. It's a message that we don't hear often enough about how when you are in that space, you know, it is imperative that if you can, just find a way to reach into that inner child. And whatever it was when you were a little girl or a little boy that brought you so much joy, find that space. Find that space of joy, and you cling onto that space with your dear. Like, you cling onto that joyful place and that joyful time, and you stay there, and you don't leave it until your entire day changes. And as you can imagine from the voice of Tabitha, I mean, it's like so encouraging. It's so uplifting. It's so just like, you know, I'm crying. You know, she cried, I'm crying. Like, oh my God. Oh, Tab. So I definitely wanted to share that with y'all as she was pleading for the souls and the hearts and the minds and the lives of everyone in this world, right? because of just the struggle that we go through as humans on a daily basis. I'm like, dang, like I never really looked at it from that perspective because we are always talking about healing our inner child. I never really looked at the fact that when you were a child, you were likely in a space of just innocence and freedom. And so you had these tangible moments where you had the opportunity to experience these tangible moments of joy and peace and again freedom and liberation, and like just remembering, like it made me think back to, like, of course, when I was a little girl and like just running around on the playground or watching your favorite TV show or just, you know, snuggling with your mom in your jammies. I don't know what type of childhood you had, and I'm not trying to sit here and say to you that, you know, you had a perfect childhood, because I know that I did not. Okay. And we don't need to go in and analyze every single person's childhood to say, okay, well, you know, even though your mom was a drug addict and you live like this, like obviously you can't relate to this. I can't say, because that wasn't my story. But what I can say is that as a child, you have a certain inhibition, innocence, and just you feel unlimited and unhinged. And whatever phase that started and stopped for you, you know, maybe you were able to experience that before the trauma happened. I don't know. I pray, you know, we always pray that you don't face trauma, but I understand that most people, 9 times out of 10 at a young age, a majority of the traumatic events that did happen in your life will happen in childhood. So I level with you for that. But just understand that whatever hardened heart that you have grown to have as an adult, which I pray that your heart is not hardened, but if it is, and whether it's the whole heart or a part of your heart, areas of your heart that are hardened, I understand, and I empathize, right, with you that your heart has been hardened from the different traumas that you faced. But the bottom line is that when you are between, you know, the age of maybe like 2 and 6, because, you know, an age of understanding and an age 6 where you're still somewhat carefree, your mind is not in a place where it is able to just register pain in the ways that it registers them as an adult. I'm not saying you can't register pain. I'm just saying it's a different type of registration of pain. And so the innocence, the freedom, the happiness, the joy that you found as a child, regardless of what you experienced, I believe is the joy that Tab is talking about. And it's a joy that's so pure. It's a joy that is so authentic, and it is a joy that is so genuine that it's like, what about adulthood is stopping us from experiencing that now? And so it made me really take a hard look at my own life and my own experiences, my own traumas, and my own just perspectives, and how I just face every single day in a different light, because I understand that you do have to grow up. And I'm not saying to anybody that y'all need to, you know, be sitting in your house playing video games instead of going to work. You get your butt up and go to work. But when you come home, what's wrong with just falling into those childlike places of happiness and freedom, even if it's just for 30 minutes? Connect with that thing that brought you joy. You know, and so I'm going to talk about that a little bit more for myself and what I've been doing. Some things I already was doing, but some things I just wanted to challenge myself to take a deeper look at and to just embrace a little bit more after I listened to that video. But before I do that, I did want to share this one verse with you guys because it's another perspective on, children that made me just kind of embrace again this idea or this concept that being a child is like a very powerful, like spiritual space. You know what I'm saying? Like the space of a child or the mind of a child is a very powerful place. And I shared some of that in the beginning because it's like when you're in your happiness, when you're at your most just place of peace and solitude and at your core of who you are, that is the place that you feel the best until all of these outside voices, thoughts, societal pressures start coming in and kind of toying with your ability to just, sit in that and rest in that. And so it's like before you will open that door and allow all of those voices in, that's that childlike peace. That's that childlike happiness. That's that childlike joy because you're just unhinged and unlimited and just standing fully in who you are in like the happiest and most joyful and amazing place. And obviously, I understand we all have jobs. So there's limitations. We all have spouses and kids and responsibilities. So there's limitations. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna stop for 2 seconds so I can read this verse that I told y'all I was gonna read like 5 minutes ago. Okay, so the verse is Psalm 127, 3-5, and here I am again from the New Living Translation. It says, "Children are a gift from the Lord; they are a reward from Him. Children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hands. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. He will not be put to shame when he confronts his accusers at the city gates." So this is an interesting verse. There's a lot going on. And one of the reasons why I wanted to, not stay away from the Bible, because that's not what we're here to do, but I wanted to minimize scripture to the degree that I am not here to be a pastor to you. I am not here to interpret the word of God to you. But I am here to share my thoughts. And so I have a few, right? And look, the first one, which is like, come on, y'all. Like, how can you not? This last verse, it stood out to me, and it stood out to me in a way that has nothing to do with the topic of this podcast. But I just wanted to point this out, right? Because it's talking about how children are a gift from the Lord and they're a reward from Him. When they're born to a young man, they're like arrows in the hands of a warrior. And then it says, "How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them." So a quiver is the thing, the case, oh Lord, what is it? The case, the pocketbook, the luggage. It is the container. Okay, here we go. The quiver is the container that you see an archer or a warrior or somebody. They put the arrows in and they sling it over their shoulder usually, and then they pull it from the quiver and then they shoot the arrow. I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So yeah, that's a quiver. So a quiver is full of arrows. And arrows, and in this particular verse, they're comparing children to arrows. They're saying children are like arrows. So any man that has a quiver full of arrows, or any man that has multiple children, it's like he is a joyful man, and we should not shame him, or he cannot be put to shame when he is confronted by his accusers at the gate. So, the haters of the world, pretty much, right? And it just made me think about like the Nick Cannons and like the Eddie Murphys and like the Futures, and how we're always like, talking crap about their multiple kids and multiple baby mamas. And to some extent, shame on them, right? But this verse is literally saying that like they can't be put to shame, because how blessed is it for these men to have so many kids. Now, look, there's context with all of this, especially for the ones that are not taking care of their children, who are pretty much just dishing out money, and who are not being actual fathers. I don't think that this verse applies to them. And I don't know to the extent that the men that I just named are taking care of their kids. I don't pay attention that closely. But what I do know is that there has been a lot of negative stigma on men with multiple kids in the media. And this verse jumped out at me to kind of be like, I wonder if this is the verse that they've been reading. Okay. But more importantly, you guys, the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because mainly it's the fourth verse, which is verse 4, is saying that children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hand. And arrows are weapons. And then, of course, back then they were pretty powerful because, before arrows, they probably had like clubs, I don't know, rocks. Look, I'm just trying to tell y'all, they didn't have machinery that was very sophisticated. They had like the little catapult thingy, maybe, but that was about it. So, an arrow, if you had the ability to, construct arrows, you had a very powerful weapon in your artillery. Yes, big biblical words. Yes, the artillery. Or your weapons stash. Okay. So, I think that basically the comparison is just to say that children are powerful weapons, which is like, what the heck? That's awesome. We always hear those verses about how children are meek and mild and they will inherit the earth because they're so sweet and cute and cuddly. But this is actually a verse saying how they are powerful weapons. And again, I'm not here to truly analyze and interpret exactly what that's saying, but if I had to take a stab, I'm thinking that it's trying to make sure that we understand that the children who are these innocent, free, uninhibited beings are powerful weapons, because that freedom, that inhibition is only going to last but so long. This is the time to pour into them wonderful, beautiful, nurturing, sentiments, so that they will be yielded up into wonderful adults. But even while you do that, there's still going to be things that come that taint, who they are. But at this stage, at this child stage, this is like their most powerful place. And anyway, yeah, so it definitely like blessed me and resonated with me in the sense of the whole inner child conversation, because again, I think that oftentimes we do talk about the inner child and how we have to heal it, which is true. But I think there's a lot of power and strength in that inner child as well. And I think that we need to lean into tapping into that. That's at least what I'm going to do. I'm going to lean into tapping into the power of my inner child, the power of that little girl who was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and who had these big dreams and who just saw the world as her oyster and knew she could just accomplish anything, and who didn't care what anybody thought, and, just had the most deep emotions that you could think of. Usually when you're a child, your emotions are just so deep. You're so excited about the littlest things. You get so excited about going to the McDonald's to get a Happy Meal, and but then also you're deeply, deeply saddened by your mom not buying you a piece of juicy fruit at the checkout when you go to the grocery store, you start crying and throwing a tantrum. You're just so deep into your emotions. And I think that although, yes, as adults, we have to have control over our emotions, we have to regulate them. It is a beautiful thing to just be in the freedom of your feelings, be in the freedom of your thoughts and your dreams and the things, the joys of life, the things that make you happy, and to just feel them in a really bold, deep, and exciting way. So, yes, that is my takeaway from all of these things, is that while healing must take place with your inner child may be one of the most powerful tools that you will have on the inside of you, that you can tap into at any second, any moment, any time, whenever you want. And he or she is always there for you. And you can do things to nurture your inner child and keep him or her safe and keep him or her happy and healthy and, living and blossoming in freedom as often as possible. So, how do I nurture my inner child? What are the ways that I have been doing that? Let me think. So I think the main one has been through therapy, because this goes back to, yes, our inner child may have some issues as well. Unfortunately, there are things that you may have encountered in life that may have taken you to a place that wasn't that beautiful in your childhood. I'm not sure if it's trauma per se, or whether it was just things that you didn't understand, just negative experiences, which are also justified. Just because it wasn't traumatic doesn't mean that it's not something that's justified in terms of, pouring into, looking into, and in need of some sort of healing. And when I say that, I mean that a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I didn't experience trauma, I'm good, I don't need therapy. But just because it's not some sort of traumatic, core, it's rocking your core type of experience or thing that is sticking with you all the rest of your life, and you feel like you were able to brush it under the rug and go through life and grow up and be who you are now, you missed successful, or you missed your big shot, like that's wonderful that you achieved and were able to move past it. But it doesn't mean that it's not a place that could use some attention and healing, right? And so that is why I always am an advocate for some sort of therapy. And you don't have to do inner child therapy, but I think it's just nice to do it, because you just never know what you're gonna uncover. And I say inner child therapy, I know that that's not what it's called. I think there's a word for it, and I don't know the exact term. But understand this, that there are different types of therapy practices. And so if you have tried and attempted to go to counseling or therapy one time and it did not work, it may not be because therapy's not for me. It could be that particular therapist and their therapy style was not a good fit for you. I love going to therapy. Okay. Therapy has saved my life many a times. And I am not ashamed of it. And I urge everyone to at least think about taking that as their first step to nurturing their inner child. Because when I went to therapy, I uncovered a lot of things about my childhood that I didn't think were traumatic. Obviously, there were some things that stood out, but then there were some other things that I just didn't realize, that I had experienced or attached to, just how I live life now, is a hard one, right? And I hate to do this to you guys, but I think that nurturing your inner child is a deeply personal experience, okay? And we're going to talk about healing second, okay? But this is nurturing. This is like that the part that's more about embracing the power and XYZ. And healing is a part of it. So I don't know, maybe I should have talked about healing first and then nurturing, but it's okay. It's all gonna tie together. Oh my God. But the nurturing part is going to be deeply personal to, again, what it was for you as a little girl or little boy that brought you all this joy and happiness. And so for me, some of the things that I really loved as a little girl was video games. And that's crazy to say because I know you guys like, ugh, come on, yo, like, okay, like that's so childish. And that is the whole point. That's the whole point. That's the first thing that comes to your mind is that's so childish. And I wish that sometimes we just didn't have that negative stigma around things being childish or childlike, because what we just talked about is the power in being a child. I think we attach the word childish to things. Now, some things that are childish, they don't have a place. We like, please get that away from me. But the reality is some things that we call childish or childlike, we say it with this negative stigma because we associate children with being weak or being ignorant or being, immature and blah, blah, blah. And to the extent that some of those things are true, they're true, but in what we just talked about, in the power of your childhood and the power of your childlike innocence, some of these things with the right amount of control, regulation, and adult-like, discipline, this stuff it's nurturing. And so, I went through law school. I went through school, for the last several years, just so tunnel visioned and focused on my goals. And of course, in doing that, you have to be extra disciplined. And I'm glad that I did it, focused. There were some things that I would, kind of gravitate towards that, probably shouldn't have, right? But then the things that used to bring me joy, like my PlayStation and, my GameCube and all these games that I used to have all the games, like you name it, mostly Nintendo, but like I used to have them all, like, and I would come home every single day from school, after I finished my homework, and I would play for hours, like hours, you name it. And don't come on here asking me no crazy stuff about, these games on the Xbox, all this stuff, these ridiculous game. I am not a gamer. Okay. I'm not a gamer. But when I was a kid, that's what we were on. Like me and my little cousins, we just loved video games. Like we would trade them. I would trade them at school, at recess. Like that's what we did. Summer camp, video games, Nintendo, the Game Boy, the DS, the GameCube, the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2. I had them all. I have the PlayStation 4. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to that place yet where I'm willing to make that sacrifice for my inner child to do the PlayStation 5. So y'all pray for me. But I recently got a Nintendo Switch, and I'm so grateful for it because it has allowed me to reconnect with a place in my life where I remember being most happiest. And look, just because I've reintroduced video games back into my life, that doesn't mean that all the discipline and the hard work and the focus goes out of the window. No, I am still very much in tune with my goals and my purpose. But do I now allow myself to just, for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, have a little snack and sit on the couch and do something other than like this adult entertainment, like filling my mind with reality TV? And look, I'm not giving up reality TV anytime soon. But ever since these games, I got this game system, I'm like, wow, like I don't even really want to watch reality TV anymore. I don't really care for that type of entertainment all of the time. And I mean, like I was watching it all of the time. It was like my only source of like, okay, I just got home from work and now I'm going to just turn on reality TV and just watch it and just consume it at these high volumes. And now you get to mix it up. You turn on a little Housewives while making dinner, and then after you eat dinner, grab the Nintendo for a couple minutes, and it brings me so much joy and happiness and peace. I'm still hanging out with my girlfriends and going to brunch and living it up and having a good time on the weekends and having a little time with my video game. And the same thing goes for, cartoons, like reintroducing like the fun cartoons I used to love. I've been watching The Proud Family and just things that brought me this joy as a little kid. And one of my plans is to get back into horseback riding and things that I may have wanted to do as a child that I didn't really get to fully explore because, when there were limitations because of my mom or money, that now I can fully explore now that I have a little more access and money and things like that. Horseback riding was one of them. Prior to me watching the Tabitha Brown video, though, I had already started back into ballet lessons where I was going, every single week to ballet class and just getting myself back into the groove of dance. Dance was something that I loved as a child, adored, and still to this day, it is a soft place in my heart. And so I had already begun tapping into that, right? Just because I wanted to invest in a hobby. But now looking at it through this lens, I'm like, yes, I got to keep going like full force. I'm going to sign up for more classes. Like I'm going to nurture my inner child through gravitating towards those things that I loved when I was little and that brought me joy and that still bring me joy. Arts and crafts is another one. So I take time to do arts and crafts. Like from time to time, I'm thinking about getting a craft table, painting, doing puzzle. I mean, you name it, just whatever it was for you. For y'all probably like, dang, you had a boring, corny childhood, like, and if you think that, I love you for it, because, I get it. And so that's why I said it's deeply personal, because maybe those things weren't a part of your childhood and they weren't fun for you, but you go back and you think back and you find those happy moments and you look up those old family photos and you find that vacation place and that first time you went to Disney World and you book you a trip to Disney World and you do whatever it is for you. Okay. But those are the first two things that I would say you've got to do in terms of nurturing your inner child. And I mean, if you're a journaler like me or you talk to yourself like me, because look, how else am I going to be doing this podcast if I don't talk to myself? Because, that's just kind of what it is at the end of the day. But yeah, like if you talk to yourself, whatever it is, the only other thing that I would say is it's always nice to do a check-in where you kind of just sit with yourself for a second and you do a little reflection or you do a little journaling. You may write yourself a letter, or you may just check in silence mentally. You close your eyes and you say, how are you today? How are you, little Kenny? How are you feeling? Everything good? How did that feel? And that is going to feel weird. It's going to feel extra corny maybe for a little bit, but I think it's definitely a positive activity that you could attempt to start. But yeah, those are the main things that I think are key to nurturing your inner child, embracing the power of your inner child. And that is what I wanted to focus on in today's episode. Now, the last thing that I have to talk about, and I think it is a little out of order, but I do want to just make sure that I cover it one more time, is that nurturing your inner child and healing from trauma are two completely different things, okay? And so because as I talked very briefly when I was talking about that first step of nurturing your inner child and talking about therapy, I think it is almost 9,000% necessary for you to go to a therapist if you have identified any sort of traumatic experience from your childhood, if there is something that you, even if you were able to get up and put it in the back of your mind, that does not mean that you are living a life that is not affected by those traumas. And it's possible that you're just covering up really well, or it's even possible that you're not covering it up really well, and you're just in denial. And so I am going to urge those people who have traumas that you have not addressed, please, 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 please reach out to a therapist. I was going to free therapy for a very long time. I actually don't even remember the last time that I paid to see a therapist. If you are a student that is in a full 4-year college, university, and even some of these 2-year colleges have it now, or if you're in a master's program, my law school program offered it as well. There usually is a free therapist available to you on campus somewhere. They have confidentiality requirements. The information is not going to go anywhere. And I urge you to go and talk to them and set up an appointment. There are also usually free resources all around your city. Google it, okay? Don't make any excuse. Money is never an excuse for this kind of stuff. Mental health is important, and healing is important. And so the reality is that wound is still there, no matter whether you try to ignore it or not. And I absolutely think that if you have not healed from your trauma, that's actually, you're not going to be able to nurture your inner child at all in any way, shape, or form. So definitely take that step first. If trauma is still present in your life in any way, shape, or form. And that's definitely, I would say it's my, I don't like to emphasize it because I don't like to assume that everybody has had trauma or been traumatized, but it's definitely, that's my biggest piece of, hey, please don't play around with this, advice. 'Cause healing is imperative to unlocking your better self. I hate that phrase. Can we move on to something else? Can we say it is the key to the journey of your ultimate divine destiny. Okay? I like that. Let me write that down, because I done already forgot it. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this episode just so that I can remember what I just said. Ain't that terrible? But yes, therapy. Please go and get healing. You may have tried to put a Band-Aid over it, but it's just like they tell you at the doctor's office. If they have to test it to see whether it is a viral infection or a bacterial infection, because if it is a viral infection, they cannot give you antibiotics for a viral infection. They can only give it for a bacterial infection. You need to go and get the proper healing for your trauma. Whatever little Band-Aid or bandage that you put over it is insufficient, okay? Get real help. Okay, y'all. So that is the end of episode 2, Your Inner Child. Wow. Ooh, that was good. I'm feeling it. It's raining today, and my dog was barking at some point. So please, y'all, bear with me, because the Lord is good and He is faithful. But this little house that we are in right now, it is interesting in terms of space, and I've been in a place of just trying to navigate how I'm gonna move about getting a new place or staying where I'm at, and just keep me in your thoughts and prayers, y'all. But yes, please make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to whatever platform you are listening to this podcast episode on. I'm so grateful for you as an audience, And please drop me something in the comments or wherever you can, send me a message or something. Definitely send me a message. Let me know your thoughts and suggestions. We're going to keep this rolling. Stay tuned next week for episode 3. I love you guys. Bye.